Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handi Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Sulky, express yourself with sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And QuiltCut, easy fabric cutting for quilters. Hi, and welcome to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community. I'm Mary Kate Karr-Petras, and I'm back with Gigi Khalsa. Hi.
Hello.
We're both associate editors at Quilters Newsletter, but Gigi is a wonderful designer in her own right, and today we're going to talk about part 2 of how to make her Forever Flowers pillowcase.
That's
so
right.
Let's just jump right into it. In part 1, we talked about picking fabric.
Fabric selection, cutting, and just your basic layout. And we'll just move a little bit farther in this episode.
Very good. So in the first episode, we did talk about how to piece the base here. And now we're going to talk about laying out the bouquet.
That's right. So we got this far last time. And doesn't look like much, but that's a great start. And basically, you've fussy cut all your patches now. So you have your large patches, and they finish at 4 inches, so you cut them 4.5. And we're just gonna start laying those out and figuring out where we want those, you know? And this is, you really want to play around. Don't rush this part, because it's really gonna affect the way that it looks in the end. You want to have a nice color distribution. You wanna make sure that, all the yellow's not concentrated in one corner or anything like that. And once you start laying it out, you'll really get a sense of the look that you want to get. And we'll just sort of provide ourselves a little frame. We'll continue the background up here. And I like to put a background one over here, and that sort of gives you the beginning of the bouquet.
That shape.
It's going to start to move out. And for these floral fussy cuts, I mentioned that you want to, use your half square triangle units as the pieces that don't necessarily have a whole flower in there.
That might result from your fussy cutting.
Exactly. So you can lay those, you lay a couple right there. And I like to just cut my triangles rather than quick piece them, because I like to control where
it allows you more flexibility.
Where my patches go, exactly.
Now, in the February-March 2014 issue of Quilters Newsletter, we're offering this as our Quilters Workshop, Quilt Makers Workshop article. And we'll have more specifics about the fabric requirements, but we're just going to give people exactly what they need to make this. But you like to cut more patches than necessary, right?
I definitely like to cut more patches, because number one, it gives you more options, and I don't think it's a bad thing for any quilter to have extra floral patches sitting in their scrap pile. And I can use them on the back too, which we'll get to later. You can use your scraps that you don't use on the front, on the back, as a little nice decorative extra. And I said that I don't like to quick piece my corner triangles, but I lied a little bit. I do like to piece the background ones that go along the top.
They're a little more standard and more uniform.
Yeah, because your fabrics you're not mixing a whole bunch of different fabrics. So I cut my squares. I mark a line directly down the middle, and then I sew on either side of that.
A 1/4 inch on either side.
A 1/4 inch on either side, and then I just cut down the middle. And all of a sudden, I have 2 pieces that are ready to use.
Do you like to have these background half square triangle units pieced ahead of time to still kind of fill out the frame as you're playing with your flower placement?
Yeah, because what you're focusing on is the center of this, but your background basically is already decided. So you just want to, if you just frame what you're working on, it kind of gives you a little context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you were saying don't rush this part. How long does that mean for you? I mean, do you take a couple hours with it? Do you work on it one day, maybe come back to it another day to really see how it sits?
Yeah, I like to arrange it, make sure it's the way I like it, and then I do walk away. And I come back maybe an hour later, And if anything pops right out at me, like, oh, that looks a little bit weird, I will try and move it and, you know, make sure that it's the way that I want it. Because if you rush it, you know, you might just sew it up and then it's sewn, and then you're like, oh, I don't really like the way those two play against each other. And then you have to take it all apart.
Or you just leave it and you just don't tell anybody that you didn't want that.
But then when you look at it, you're like,
I know.
Every
we
time.
all have those projects.
Yeah.
But having said that, even when you do allow time to kind of let it sit or percolate or whatever, this still is a project that sews it pretty quickly if you wanted to give it as a gift.
Definitely. Yes.
Or decorate a new home.
And especially if you cut way more patches than you need, you have them ready to go if you want to make multiples.
There you go.
So basically, you know, we'll continue finishing all the patches that we need. We'll lay them all out.
And this is, it's a little hard to see because of how big the patches are right now, but you do get a couple of rows, so and they're delineated by these larger patches.
Yes. So you don't want to arrange it so that your large patches are staggered like that, because then you'll really have trouble sewing your rows. So I like to just make a 4-inch row, another 4-inch row, and then you have another layer on the top of your background.
Okay. So let's see, you've got a couple of those.
Yes. So I'll show you how you sew all your patches together once you've decided.
Just sweep this away. Aha.
And that's basically, I said, now that's the way I like all my flowers. I'm going to go ahead and sew those together. So you'll have 2 wider rows and then 1 row that's just basically your background print. And you'll see I have a couple different prints, but I had a lot of florals that had this really pretty sort of chartreuse background, so I just mixed them up, and I think it gives a little bit more variety.
It's lovely. Well, let's see the finished version.
And then you sew your rows together, and all of a sudden, you have this. And now what you could do if you want to make this to hang on the wall, just layer your backing and batting the way that you normally would, and finish it with the binding, and you're good to go. But we're going to make a pillowcase.
Right.
So I have a little bit of a different method when I make pillowcases. One thing I do is I cut the batting a little bit smaller than the top, and that's just because I don't like a lot of bulk in my seams.
Okay, and when you say a little bit smaller, is it a 1/4 inch on all sides?
It's pretty much a 1/4 inch. I don't get obsessive about it, but I do definitely make it smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll want to mark your quilting, whatever you want to do. It would be really cool if you did like free motion flowers in there or something. I do pretty much straight line quilting, but it's really up to you.
Well, then it really lets the flowers, the prints speak for themselves.
That's right.
But you know, it's whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
I say that all the time, but it really is. It's whatever makes you happy.
I do think it would be pretty if you did floral. Like, I'm not very good at free motion quilting, but if I were, I would totally try that.
Okay, well, next episode.
That's right. So for layering, I turn this upside down, and then I get my batting, and I just sort of eyeball a 1/4 inch in from the edges, and just smooth it out. You just want to,
And like you said, it's not an exact,
precise
precise thing necessarily. It's just to reduce the bulk in your seams when you go and turn it, because you're going to have that much more bulk with the lining, and then you're going to have a pillow form in there, and it's supposed to be comfortable. And all that stuff.
And I like a little bit of a clean edge on my pillowcases, and so you just smooth that out, and then I'll just move that aside, put my backing down.
Now, does it matter to you, since this is going to be on the inside of the pillow, you're still using a very pretty fabric?
Oh, this is a fabric. I had enough of it.
Oh, you're like, oh, this old thing.
Exactly. It does not matter what you put on the back.
Just talking about your personal taste, that's all. So you cut this a little bit larger than your finished top.
Yes. So the backing is definitely larger, and then the batting sticks pretty well once you've secured it where you want it to be. So you can just sort of smooth that out. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, because you're going to cut it off anyway. And then you'll go ahead and baste that.
And then quilt it. Quilt as desired.
Exactly.
Yes.
Quilt as desired.
This is how you desired to quilt yours.
Yes. So what I did is I I just followed my diagonal lines that I have right there, and I mirrored them. I guess it's about an 1.25 inches, and then I did a crisscross, sort of in the bouquet part.
And that diamond gives it a nice, I don't know, it's just a comfortable quilt pattern.
Yeah,
especially since it's a utilitarian object. It's not a wall hanging, it's going to be used. So I like it.
Yeah, I think it adds a nice sort of texture, and it also ties the whole thing together in a very subtle way.
So now let's talk about your...
Let's do the back.
The back, okay, the closure.
Yeah, so you'll see on this one, I used scraps from the back of, the scraps that I didn't use on the front, I went ahead and put them on the back. So I'll just talk us through making this back. It's really very simple.
And I love this because you could just go with just plain fabric,
Sure.
couple of panels of fabric, but this is just a really nice added design feature. Design feature is one of our favorite phrases around here, but I think it's lovely. So let's take a look at it.
All right. So we have the one, this is going to be the under part of the back. So all we want to do on this is fold it again, press it, and do a little top stitch. I did a zigzag.
Okay. Okay, so that is that part?
That's that part, yeah. And then we'll do the decorative sort of, I guess, top layer. And I've got my strips that I've sewn together. It's the same size I used in the front. I've got my 4.5 inch wide strip. And I'm going to use the same lining that I used for the back. And I'm just going to sew these together very quickly.
Okay. And this lining is, because you just like a clean interior.
That's right. And
it's a part of the pillow that's going to get a lot of use because of the in and out of the pillow form, and so this just reduces the stray threads.
Yes, and also for washing. When you wash these things, the threads can just run like crazy. And when you have no threads to run, it just looks awesome when you use it, and it will look awesome for a long time. So, a little bit.
Pedal to the metal.
That's right.
Okay.
So when those two are sewn together, what you'll want to do is really press that back. Press the seam allowance towards the lining.
Okay.
And you may even want to do a little top stitch right there just to sort of hold it in place.
Oh, okay.
But we won't do that right now. And basically the idea is you're going to have just a tiny bit of the floral just inside the fold there.
Kind of rolled.
Yeah,
okay.
So when you have it right side out, you don't see any of the lining. So now we're going to sew this piece to our top layer. And we'll just do the same thing that we did for the first one. All right. So now we've got something that looks like this, but we'll press that and we'll press this away from your decorative strip.
Okay.
And then what you'll do is you'll basically fold this up. You'll have pressed this, and then you'll just fold this down and stitch right on the top there.
Oh, okay.
Just so you cover that seam right there.
Let's take a look. Can you show us that spot on the inside?
Yes, absolutely. So you'll see my top stitching right there. You'll see the other side. You can sort of barely see the seam in there. You could always do a double stitch if that bothers you. It doesn't really bother me.
But it does secure it, and it does give that nice clean look right there.
It gives a very clean look, and
really
it's
finished.
not going anywhere.
Right.
So, and then once your tops are done, you just want to lay them on the front of your pillowcase. Do the bottom one first, and you, of course, have your seam right there.
Right.
And you've got this. This is all folded and sewn. It looks really good.
It does look great.
Yeah. And then you just line up your corners, pin everything, sew all the way around, and you're done.
You clip your corners?
I do clip my corners.
Of course, you have, since you already cut your batting smaller, you already reduced a lot of the bulk.
I did, yeah, but I do clip the corners just to give you a really nice sort of clean corner there.
Excellent. And again, here is our finished product.
There it is.
Beautiful. And here is, again, our Forever Flowers pillowcase.
Won't ever droop or fade away.
Well, I'm so glad we hired you so that we had an excuse to pattern.
Me too.
I'm glad we hired you for a lot of other reasons,
No kidding.
Again, if you're interested in learning more of the specifics of how to make this pattern, be sure to pick up the February-March 2014 issue of Quilters Newsletter magazine, available on newsstands and online. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for bringing this and sharing it with us all.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handi Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Sulky, express yourself with sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And QuiltCut, easy fabric cutting for quilters.